Welcome to Dental Business RX. Practice success in 30 minutes or less.
Thank you for calling ABC Dental.
Welcome to this week's episode of Dental Business RX. This is actually part 2 of a 2-part series. Last week's episode was episode 100. This is officially episode 101. And we decided for episode 100 to do 2 things that we'd never done before. One, we were going to film the episode. So if you're watching this on YouTube, you know we filmed it because you're watching it. If you're listening to this on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or Google Podcasts, you can also watch it on YouTube if you'd like. And what we started in last week's episode was we were taking listener questions. And this is sort of an amalgamation of the questions we've received from listeners since the inception of the podcast. And we isolated the top 6 questions. We did the first 3 last week. We're doing the other 3 this week. And to answer these questions, again, I have Sabri. Hello, Sabri.
Hello, Jeff.
Many of you know Sabri if you've listened to the podcast in the past. Sabri is our Deputy Chief Operating Officer here at MGE. She's in charge of all of MGE's technical delivery and has worked with thousands of clients. So I thought nobody better to ask than you.
Okay,
Yeah?
thank you.
I know you have seen the questions in advance, so I'm not putting you so much on the spot.
No.
All right. So we asked her 3 questions last week, which, by the way, if you're watching this on YouTube, I mean, obviously, if you're listening to this, just you can listen to last week's episode. If you're watching this on YouTube and want to see the first 3 questions, you can click here. I think the cards are still there. And that'll take you right to last week's episode if you want to do that before you watch this one. All right. So we have our 3 questions for this week.
Yes.
Okay. You have seen them.
I have.
But I'm not putting you totally on the spot.
No.
Which is good. Okay. So
But
now.
sometimes that's better, you know, to just, then you don't overthink it too much.
Then I'm going to make up 3 random questions. I'm kidding. Well, I have to use the questions that the listeners gave us. So.
All right, fine.
Yeah. All right. So we can just make up random questions. Okay. So here's our next question. Are you
Yes.
ready? I say we just jump into it.
Yes.
Okay. Because these are the questions we've gotten a lot,
Okay.
right? And variations of them.
Yeah.
But this is sort of the question.
Yeah.
All right. So the next one was, I can't find a hygienist. What should I do?
Yes.
Now, are you hearing that? I know we heard that a lot, especially like in 2020, 2021. Are you hearing that about the same as much now as you
No.
were back then?
No.
Okay.
Not as much. I mean, it's opened up a lot. And during that time period, they couldn't find anybody. Some people
Right.
couldn't find front desk people,
true.
assistants, associates. Like, that was just a real crunch with the whole personnel scene.
Right.
That has kind of eased up. And when I say kind of eased up, that has eased up a lot. In certain areas of the United States, I'm still hearing I'm having trouble finding a hygienist. And out of all the positions, hygienist is probably the most common one I still get.
Sure. Now, can I ask a question?
Yes.
Is it as bad? Well, how do I phrase this? So the difficulty in finding a hygienist
Yes.
has gotten better.
Yes.
Has it gotten as good as it was pre-2020?
I would say yes.
Okay.
I would say in certain areas we've always had trouble finding hygienists.
True.
Right? So I would say, yeah, it's just become a regular problem. It's something that's always been a problem.
Okay. So then, if that is the case,
Yeah.
and would they? Because one thing I noticed, because I remember I'd heard this a decent amount too, was what I would do by area. If somebody told me I can't find a hygienist, is I would go to Indeed,
Yes.
and I'd look at how many ads there are for hygienists, and I'd
Yes.
look at what was being offered.
Yes.
Because there was a bit of a disconnect. You know, you had salary.com saying that the hygiene salary in this zip code was $42 an hour.
Yes.
Then you go to Indeed and they're offering 60 to 65.
Yes.
So obviously there was this huge disconnect
Yes.
between what salary.com thought and what was actually happening. And then I noticed that the areas which were truly problematic, you had corporate offices offering $4,000 hygiene signing bonuses
Yes.
and super high salaries.
Yes.
As a matter of fact, I saw a client who was looking for a hygienist in a particular area, couldn't find one, and I noticed he was offering $10 an hour less than all the corporate chains.
Yes.
So anyway, that kind of answered his
But
question.
you know, I do see people hiring hygienists for far less than corporate is offering, simply because that particular hygienist wants to work in a private setting.
Fair enough.
And I tell you something, those are your best hygienists.
That's true. That's
so
probably
money
who I'd
isn't
want.
everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. But what when I was looking at these, what it kind of helped establish for me was, is the problem real? Like, is there a hygiene shortage in this zip code?
Yeah.
Or is the client just not good at hiring a hygienist?
It's usually a combination of both.
Right. And that's what I saw.
Yeah.
That's what I saw too. So
Yeah.
let's say, let's take it worst case scenario. I'm in a tight market.
Yes.
Okay. And I'm in a tight market and I'm still having trouble hiring.
Yes.
What would you do?
Well, the first thing I would do is if you know this is a tight market and if you know that your hygiene is supposed to always be expanding, right? I would always be looking for hygienists. Right?
Okay, so you're saying if I have a 4-day-a-week hygiene schedule,
Yeah.
and it's booked, and I don't really have prospects for a 5th day yet,
Yeah.
I'm still always looking for
Yeah,
hygienists.
I'm getting names. I'm getting, what makes you find a hygienist in a tight market is the fact that you have connections, you have lines, you know people.
I see.
And even if that person isn't available, they know people.
True.
Right? So by getting yourself connected with hygienists through Facebook groups or just continuous advertising and interviewing and keeping their applications on file and things like that, then when you are in a pinch, you have people you can call.
Got it.
Right? Better than working through a temp agency.
Yeah, that's a good point. If I know 10 hygienists that maybe I've talked to at some point and I'm all of a sudden need one, I can call those 10, and if they can't come, they'll know someone who's looking.
Right, or they'll know somebody who's able to pick up a couple of days, and I can at least cobble it together until I get something permanent figured out.
Interesting.
Right,
Okay.
so if you already know at that point in time that you might potentially have a problem, and then the other thing, so it's like a preventative action.
So let's
right?
say I haven't done that. Like
Yes.
here I am, I'm listening to this podcast or watching if you're on YouTube, I'm listening or watching, and I haven't been doing that.
Yes.
I haven't been. Anytime I needed a hygienist, I called the temp agency,
Yes.
and my current hygienist is moving out of state or retiring or quitting.
Yeah.
And I'm starting from scratch here, but I need to find somebody.
Yes.
And it's a tight market that I'm in.
Yes.
What would you suggest that I do?
Well, the first thing I would do is obviously you want to get the word out there with as many people as possible. So then you start, but you're doing it kind of behind the 8 ball
Sure.
on an emergency base right now. So it's
Which
a
I'm
little
giving
annoying.
you worst case scenario. here.
Right.
Yeah.
So, yes, you call temp agencies. Terrible solution, but
Sure.
it works. Yes, you're going on Facebook groups and you're just posting as much as you can. Yes, you're placing ads on Indeed and you're placing them correctly, right? What I find with Indeed is Indeed's not used correctly and it's a little finicky. And if you don't know how to use Indeed and you have, like for certain positions, and this is just an example of it, if you click that you need experience, even if it's something as ridiculous as a hygiene or that you need a certificate.
Oh,
Right?
I think I know what you're talking.
You
so
know
like,
exactly.
Obviously the person needs a degree or a certificate in order to practice hygiene or a license.
Correct.
So if you click that,
Yeah, or you want experience. When
Sure.
you click those buttons for whatever reason, and I certainly didn't write the algorithms for Indeed, right?
Sure.
So I don't know why this is, but I know suddenly you stop getting applications.
from licensed hygienists. Because
Correct.
maybe they forgot to click when they uploaded their app that they have a license.
Correct.
Yeah.
So sometimes just removing all the filters off of Indeed starts getting you applications.
Interesting.
So yeah,
Okay.
I know, and don't ask me to explain that. I can't.
Yeah.
In worst case scenarios, it's funny because usually in worst case scenarios, the doctor goes, "Well, I'll take hygiene."
Okay.
Right, on my schedule, right? That's a terrible solution because when the doctor starts taking hygiene on their schedule, they're always going to limit the amount of hygiene patients that they can see.
Right. Otherwise, the practice isn't going to be productive enough.
Correct. And by limiting the amount of hygiene patients they can see, they are limiting the amount of treatment that they can present.
Okay.
Right? Because most of your treatment presentations and your outstanding treatment plans should be being sold through hygiene, as you and I have discussed often. So by limiting your hygiene, you are limiting your sales and your numbers start going down.
Got it.
So it's a terrible idea. So it's almost better to hire an associate that likes doing hygiene. And believe it or not, there are associates that like doing hygiene. They don't mind.
Or they're at least willing to do it for a time, right?
That's correct.
Yeah.
It's almost better to hire an associate to do your hygiene than to take hygiene yourself or to have no hygiene.
Okay.
Right? From a numbers perspective.
So if I can't find a hygienist, no matter what I do,
Yes.
and I've tried everything,
Yes. I'm looking for an associate that
Yeah,
will do it.
good.
And usually in those markets, it's easier to find an associate than to find a hygienist.
let's go figure.
Yeah, I know. I know. So I know there's sloppy solutions. Ultimately, the pretty solution is don't handle an emergency when it's on fire. Right? Like prevent the fire by taking preventative actions and just doing a good job in that area, hiring. But if you can't do that and now you're stuck, right? Those are sloppy solutions that do work.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Good. I like it. Good answer. All right, so you ready for the next question?
Yes.
All right, here we go. Okay, this one's always fun. So
So I can't actually see the questions because
No, I
they're
know.
behind me, so I don't know the next one.
this was phrased a number of different ways when we compiled the questions.
Yes.
But essentially, here's the question.
Yes.
I have a problem staff member.
Okay.
Okay, they're a problem for me and for the rest of the team.
Yes.
But they're very productive.
Yes.
What do I do?
Okay, now that's an interesting question, right? Because productive staff member and problem usually don't go together.
Right, it's a bit of an oxymoron.
Yeah, totally oxymoron. So the first thing that I would do is I would verify the actual production.
Okay.
Right.
Because that could be falsified.
That could be falsified, or they could just look really busy, or they could seem like they're selling a lot and you see the 2 sales that they're getting and you don't see the 10 people that they upset that you'll never see again.
Well, it's interesting you say that.
Yeah.
Because if a person really doesn't keep statistics
Yes.
and keep metrics of any kind,
Yes.
how do they know if they're productive?
That's exactly right.
So then you're right. It becomes and you know how I'm a big fan of this.
Yes.
Managing with opinions. And
Yes.
like we have a lot of those, or we're hardly getting any new patients.
Yeah.
Or all of our new patients are not great new patients. Like with these all-inclusive statements.
Yes.
I'm being facetious. I hate those things.
Yes.
But yeah, it could look like my hygienist is selling a lot, and then I actually look at their hygiene production, and it's terrible.
Yeah, or you're taking a look at the amount of people you have an outstanding recall that won't come back.
Right.
Because she's selling a lot, but usually if she's treating your staff badly and the hygienist has the nerve to treat you badly, right? They're going to treat your patients badly, right? So you are going to, and then sometimes my favorites when you hear usually. In that particular scenario, and we just picked a hygienist, is that, yeah, but everybody loves this hygienist.
Who's saying it? The hygienists themselves or somebody else?
I don't know. That's just what I hear from
Everybody.
the doctor.
How is that even quantifiable?
I don't know, right? And usually that's usually a hygiene area that will not expand, right? So we stuck at 4 days of hygiene for the last 10 years.
Right. And
while we're getting 40 new patients a month. That doesn't even make sense.
And the hygienist is a problem, but you don't want to get rid of them because everybody loves them.
That's right. Or they're so productive, they're selling all these cases, yet half the people that they see, they never come back because they just upset the patient.
Right. Have you ever seen cases where a hygienist is, I guess this would be kind of wrong, but I would assume
Yes.
they could be placing a lot of arrest in or something like this when, more than they need to or something like that?
Correct. But usually,
Obviously, I'm not trying to indict anybody on that line, but you get
all
the idea.
I'm saying, whether it's a hygienist or a front desk person or your assistant, it doesn't matter who it is that when I hear the person is super productive, yet everybody around them is upset, I get really suspect.
Okay, so first thing you do is, are they really productive?
Correct.
And verify.
Correct.
Okay.
Then, if they are really productive and everybody around them is upset, the next thing that you would do is you would take a look at why are the people around them upset?
And I guess that would be especially applicable if, let's say I'm the doc
Yeah.
and the office manager get along with this hygienist fine or this schedule coordinator fine.
Right.
But the receptionist and the financial coordinator really don't like them and one of the assistants.
Right, because the hygienist keeps getting upset that the schedule's messed up and is yelling at them or leaving big openings in the schedule, or the schedule is not confirmed.
Imagine
and now
that.
the hygienist, or she tells the patient needs something and they just never collect for it, or she tells the in other
So then
words,
she blows her stack because she's kind of going, what are you guys doing? I'm sitting here doing nothing. And it's, so the hygienist is being mean to me.
That's exactly right. So if the hygienist truly is verifiably a productive individual and the people around them are upset, I would check to see that the people that are upset, are they productive individuals, right? Or are they just upset? Your non-productive staff will usually try to take out your productive staff, right?
Yeah.
So you just need to be careful when you're doing this, and this is why it's so important that you manage by statistics.
Yeah.
Right. Then the next thing, like now, let's say I truly have we have the oddball, that we truly have a productive individual that for whatever reason just keeps upsetting all the staff, right?
Has bad social skills.
Has bad social skills.
Yeah.
Right. At that point, it usually comes back down to policy. Like everybody has a certain hat that they wear as a staff member, right? meaning that we treat each other courteously. We don't curse at each other, right? So there are certain there are certain agreed upons on the way that we are going to conduct ourselves as a team. Make sure that is policy. Make sure that you have that in writing. Make sure that you have something that you can correct the offending staff member with, and make sure that that you actually do correct the offending staff member and see if it changes. Makes sense. If nothing changes, your rest of your staff is productive, and this one just keeps upsetting your other productive staff so you can never grow, now you have to make a decision what to do. But I'm telling you, the amount of times that I've run into that particular scenario,
I can think of one time in my career.
Yeah. I can't even think of one off the top of my head. Right? It's usually...
And I'll give you a hint. I'm not going to say a name, but this was a doc and an OM, and they were newer clients at the time, and the OM was very hyper-competent.
Yes.
Super competent. And she went and subbed for one of the doc's friends because their OM was out for a month.
Yes.
So she went and subbed for a week.
Yes.
And they had their best day ever the first day she was there, and all the staff quit. So now, again... Maybe that was the staff. I just know that they also couldn't keep staff. Worth the darn. So, yeah, I mean, I've seen people who are, but even then, that could be worked out.
That's exactly right.
Someone who's rough around the edges, I mean, especially if they're productive. I understand. If you're productive, you don't want to, you may not have the patience for somebody who's not.
That's right.
But there's no reason a person can't be courteous.
Correct. But if I truly have when I have a productive staff member that maybe is a little bit rough around the edges, and honestly, sometimes productive people are rough around the edges. It does happen, right? You do need a good manager to do their job, right? And manage these personalities.
Well, and if they're productive, they can change.
That's right.
Okay, listen, you can't yell at the receptionist. She's crying right now because she did this. You know, that's not, and I know what they're trying to do. They're trying to solve the problem to make the person not do it again.
Correct. But then again, if there's a problem, that should go through the manager, and the manager addresses it. We don't usually go directly to other staff members.
Right, so we don't want a toxic work environment.
That's exactly right. So usually a good manager can manage these personalities if you do really have a situation like that. And worst case scenario, you have to replace them.
That's true.
Yeah.
Okay, good. All right.
But that's like that you have some investigating to do before you replace this person.
All right. So just to summarize, check if they're really productive, and then check the people who are complaining about them. Are they productive?
Yes.
And then from there,
correct them with
correction, etc. And if they don't correct, you might have to move on.
That's correct.
But I think that last option is going to be a super rarity.
I don't see it that often. I don't even remember, except for the one that you off the top of my head. It doesn't happen often. I can tell you that.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, good. All right, so we're now on our last question.
Yes.
This was okay. This was extremely general, but it was the way it was asked was general.
Yes.
Is how do I get more new patients? I know we do a whole seminar on this. So now we'll spend 8 hours answering this one.
Okay.
Any particular, how about some immediate tips?
Okay.
I'm there, I'm getting 20 new patients a month. I want to get 30 or 35. What would you tell me to do?
First thing I would do is I would give the target to somebody that I hold responsible for it.
Okay, so someone in the office has to actually be accountable for getting these new patients. It's not everybody's job.
Nope.
Right.
One person accountable, because then one person is creating that part of the organization, right, and taking accountability and responsibility for it. And usually that in and by itself makes the number go up.
Interesting. Do you get the answer? Because I know I don't do as much client interviews as you used to, right? But you'll talk to a doc and an OM, and you'll say, hey, so who's responsible for the production? Well, the doc, that's me. I'm in charge of production. I'm a collections, the office manager. That's me. You go, who's responsible for new patients? And they look at each other.
Yeah.
And one of them eventually says, I guess me.
Yes.
Do you hear that a lot?
A lot.
Yeah. So nobody's really responsible.
Correct. So it's usually a tremendously neglected area of the organization, and we just kind of give it to it belongs at best. What I see ordinarily is the market. We have a marketing company that takes care of that.
Right, but nobody's accountable. They don't ignore it from a monetary perspective, or people are trying to get more new patients.
Yes.
Even we've seen people do the MGE new patient workshop.
Yeah.
I had to get that plug in there.
Yeah.
Did I do good?
You did good.
Okay, I'll put the link.
Slid right in there.
The MGE new patient workshop. I'll put a link to it in the episode description. If you're watching it on YouTube, it'll be below. Otherwise, it'll be on the episode webpage if you're listening. we get about an average 42% increase with the new patient workshop.
Yeah.
But even then, you'll have a doc and the staff do the new patient workshop, but then, that's why one of the things we go over in it now is who's going to be the person who's accountable for this?
That's correct.
Because if they don't have that,
yes,
nobody's accountable.
that's correct. And it's, if it's like, okay, it's going to be the doctor, right? Like, how real is it that that person is actually going to take the new patient phone calls, right? Make sure that
The doctor?
Yeah, make sure that the conversion on the new
You don't have to
patient
go
is
any
what
further
it's
than
supposed
that.
to do. Put together a call log, like
You
all the
already
things.
handled it with the first one. They're not going to take the new patient.
Yeah,
calls.
that's ridiculous. They are not. They don't have the time, right, and the bandwidth to create this.
Well, they're the doctor.
Very often, the manager doesn't either.
Okay.
Very often, it's better to give it to internal referrals, right, like call conversion, right, from the and referrals and scheduling family members and all the things we've gone over the years. I'm going to give the internal part to one person.
Okay.
Right. And then, if the office manager wants to control the external part.
Like the office manager control the Google pay-per-click, the Facebook ads, and the mailings and things like this.
Exactly. Then that works too.
So let's say I have an office manager, I have a receptionist who also does scheduling, and someone who does insurance and finances at the front. And let's say as the office manager, say I'm the OM, I'm handling the external marketing. I'm doing the mail, this, that, the other. So let's say I go to my scheduler / receptionist and I say, okay, cool, you're responsible for internal referrals. Okay? So then they would be the one who are accountable for running the referral program and stuff like this.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And it's somebody thinking with it. It's somebody and I'm going to give you a really dumb example. So I swung by a client's office.
I know what you're talking
Yeah,
about.
last month. What was it? A few weeks ago, right? And I was just there. I mean, I wasn't even doing anything. I was just there saying hi. And they happened to have the plumber come by.
What was the plumber there for?
There was something wrong with their shutoff valve. Kept shutting off. So it was like
That's kind of rough.
Yeah, it was rough. So he got in there and he's fixing it. And they're talking to the plumber. And and I'm just kind of standing there. I'm hanging out with the office manager, and she's talking to the plumber. And I noticed the plumber's missing teeth, right? So I just asked front teeth.
Okay.
So I just asked the plumber and say, hey, do you have a dentist? I noticed you're missing a tooth. And he's like, yeah, I saw a dentist, and he was talking to me about like Cadillacs and this and that, like different fruit. And like, no, it was so much money, blah, blah, blah. And I went, okay, but you just want to eat, right? And he goes, yeah, I just want to eat. I said, well, why don't you schedule, an exam? They have a new patient special, and have them take a look at what they can do for you.
Is the client did implants?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So last I checked up on it, I did get a follow-up on it, like whatever happened with the plumber. And he'd completed half his treatment plan and paid for that. And he was getting the other half paid for.
Wow.
Right.
So really it was just a matter of, because I've heard you say this to clients for years, like and because there's this whole thing.
Yeah.
And, okay, I'm going to rant about this for a second. I'm not going to rant. I don't really rant. But there's this whole thing on, how are we going to ask for referrals? You're supposed to sit down with a patient as the doctor.
Yes.
A referral from you, or whatever they say.
Yes.
Our best patients are ones who are referred by family and friends, and we
Yes.
hope you loved your treatment.
Yes.
And it's supposed to be this whole weird, almost like awkward
Yes.
conversation.
Yes.
When I know what you've been telling clients for years, if you don't mind me summarizing, is like, look, you have a new patient special you're using on your marketing.
Yeah.
So if you get a new patient phone call,
Yeah.
or the mailman walks in,
Yeah.
offer them the new patient special. So a new patient phone call comes in. Like if you were to call a dental practice
Yes.
that was practicing what you said,
Yeah.
you'd say, hey, I just moved into the area, blah, blah, blah. I'd like to schedule an appointment for a cleaning. If the receptionist was doing what you told them to, they'd go, oh, is there anybody else in your household who needs a dentist?
That's right. You schedule them at the same time, because usually one needs them. Multiple
Right.
people in the family need a
Because
dentist.
the average household has 3 people in it.
That's exactly
And then
right.
you're going to say, yeah, well, my husband's looking for a dentist too. Well, you go, well, we have the new patient special. You can both come.
That's right. Can you schedule an appointment for him? Right? So it's easy. You can even do it with people who are in the practice in front of you. Like, hey, do you have anybody in your home currently that's not seeing a dentist? Great. Can you schedule an appointment? Do we need to get them on the phone? How do we do this? We have a new patient special.
Right.
But that needs to be somebody that's thinking with that constantly, because it belongs to them. That's their game. That they're playing in the practice. Like, I am going to flood this place with new patients.
Right.
Right? And they take pride in that, and that's the simple answer on new patients. There's so many people.
I've used the numbers you've given me before too,
Yeah.
like just as examples, and I've seen the same thing. But you may be watching. This is something that literally you could do today. You could do it today. You could do it tomorrow. You don't have to make it big or complex. And we've even talked about this on prior episodes of the podcast. You'd have to
Yes.
listen. It wouldn't be on YouTube if you're watching this on YouTube. But there's episodes where we talk about how to get more new patient referrals.
Yes.
And you did a whole thing on this.
Yes.
But this is something you and your front desk, your office manager, you listen to the episode, watch this part of the video or whatever, start doing it today. You
Yeah.
could, because if you're the average practice, you're seeing 20 or 30 people a day. And this is what I was going to say. A lot of practices think they're family practices.
Yes.
But then I remember not that long ago,
Yeah.
you pointed something up where a client had told you that.
Yes.
You had them run the number of unique households
Yeah.
and the number of active charts.
Right. And the way that you do that
Mm-hmm.
is you do it through the mailing list portion of your software. So you use software. So if you get the number of active patients you have,
Mm-hmm.
and then you generate a mailing list, one mailing per household, you can see how many people, what the difference actually is.
See, the last one you did this with that you told me about
Yeah.
was 800 households, 1,000 patients.
That's right.
So that should have been
Yes.
800 households, 2,400 patients if it was following averages.
That's correct.
So they weren't a family practice. So that's the only thing.
That doesn't mean you don't see a lot of family members. It's just
Not
not as many
uniformly.
as you think they are.
It's, again, one of those nebulous things. Well, it seems like we're a family practice.
Yeah.
Maybe you feel like a family practice, but are you seeing the whole family?
Yes.
So, and I'm not telling people you need to see kids if you don't want to see kids or this or that or whatever.
No, but husband, wives,
hus-
moms.
Yeah.
And you'd be surprised how often people say, no, I don't actually have anybody in my household, but you know what? My mom's in the area and she does need an appointment.
Yeah.
Great, let's get her scheduled.
So if you have a new patient special,
Yeah.
your plumber, your mailman, your water person, the person
Yeah.
who brings jugs of water, your anybody.
So I saw this one office where they had a game to get new patients on the schedule, but just like family members and like the mailman and everybody. And they were scheduling all the wrong numbers. Like
So
somebody
if I
calls into
called
the,
wrong number, they would schedule me.
yeah, wrong number. Like, oh, okay, this is dental practice. Do you have a dentist? And then it just turned into this, and they scheduled the person, and I thought it was brilliant.
Wow.
Yeah. So how far can you take this? You can take this as far as you're willing to communicate.
I mean, if the person has teeth,
Yes.
yeah.
Right. So you need to have somebody who's extroverted, easy with communication, who can do this.
Yeah, I more people should do this. It's super easy. This is something I challenge you. Start trying this today.
Yes.
Just with the patients you have in the practice, pull their chart up, take a look. They probably have other people in the household.
Yes.
Or their spouse who's their emergency contact. See if they're a patient.
Right.
Chances are they're not. You could even ask them, hey, does your husband, John, have a dentist? Mm-hmm. We have a new patient special right now.
Right.
Just saying, because most people don't.
Easy.
Anyway. Well, that about wraps it up. That's all
right.
6.
That's right.
Sabri, thank you so much.
You're so
For
welcome.
being on.
Yes.
And folks, I hope this helped. And if you have any questions about MGE or about the new patient workshop, which I mentioned earlier, again, that link is on the episode webpage if you're listening, or below if you're watching this on video. If you have any questions about MGE, you can visit us online at mgeonline.com or call us at 800-640-1140. Folks, have a great week, and we will see you, or you can listen to us at the next episode.